grave robbers of the Middle Ages who stole from the dead and why. Imagine walking through a medieval graveyard at midnight. The air is thick with mist, the smell of damp earth clings to the night, and the only sound is the wind rustling through crooked wooden crosses. Suddenly, you hear the muffled crack of a shovel biting into the ground. Somewhere out there in the darkness, men are working feverishly, not to bury a body, but to pull one out. This is not fiction. This was the dark, hidden world of grave robbers in the Middle Ages. These were not simply thieves looking for gold. They were priests, peasants, even nobles, each with their own twisted reason for disturbing the dead. Tonight, we're opening the coffin on this forbidden subject to uncover who dared rob the graveyards of medieval Europe and why the dead were never truly safe. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more shocking and bizarre stories from history. The fear of the dead. Medieval people lived in terror of death. Plague, famine, war, life was fragile. But graves were sacred. To disturb the dead was a mortal sin, yet many did it anyway. Graves were not just resting places. They were treasure chests, filled with burial goods, jewelry, weapons, coins, and, perhaps most valuable of all, bones. Yes, bones. Because in medieval Europe, the body itself could be worth more than the gold buried with it. The first robbers, the desperate poor. The first grave robbers were often the poorest peasants. Imagine a starving family in 13th century France. Winter has frozen the fields. The Lord demands taxes, the church demands tithes. A local wealthy merchant dies, buried with a silver belt buckle and coin offerings for the afterlife. For the peasant, that grave is not just a sin, it's survival. Chronicles tell us that in famine years, churchyards would be patrolled because peasants dug up the newly buried, stripping bodies of rings, buckles, even shoes. The church thundered with sermons, warning that those who stole from the dead would burn in hell. Yet hunger is louder than sermons. The monks who stole bones. Not all grave robbers were starving peasants. Some wore robes of holiness. In the 9th and 10th centuries, monasteries across Europe became locked in a strange competition. Who could acquire the holiest relics? A saint's finger bone, a skull, even a shred of clothing could transform a sleepy abbey into a pilgrimage site, bringing in floods of donations. This led to what historians now call the holy robberies. Monks themselves crept into graveyards, sometimes breaking open sarcophagi of saints, spiriting away bones under the cover of night. One famous tale, the monks of Conques in France stole the relics of Saint Foy, a young martyr. According to records, a monk lived undercover for years in another monastery, waiting for the right moment. When he finally succeeded in smuggling her bones away, the monks of Conques celebrated it as a miracle. They didn't call it grave robbing. They called it translation of relics. But at its core, it was body theft. Sorcerers and body parts. Here's where it gets stranger. In medieval Europe, grave robbers weren't just after gold or relics, they wanted the dead themselves. Certain bones, skulls, and even human fat were believed to have magical powers. Records from Germany in the 15th century described sorcerers digging up the bodies of hanged criminals to use their hands as hand of glory, a grisly candle made from a thief's hand that was said to paralyze anyone it was shown to. Human fat was melted and sold as a medicine for wounds. Powdered skulls were ground into potions for epilepsy. Grave robbing wasn't just greed, it was commerce. A black market in body parts thrived in the shadows of medieval towns. The nobles' tombs, rich pickings. While peasants might dig shallow graves, the boldest robbers went after the tombs of kings and nobles. These were treasure troves. Knights were often buried with swords, armor, and rings. Queens were entombed with jewels and crowns. In England, after the Norman conquest, chroniclers whisper of robbers breaking into Saxon burial mounds, looting gold from long-dead chieftains. In Germany, robberies of royal crypts became so notorious that emperors ordered guards to be stationed near their family mausoleums. But the temptation was too strong. Even centuries later, when archaeologists opened medieval tombs, they found them already plundered long ago. The jewels were gone, but the broken bones told the story of robbers who had been there first. The Church's dark secret. Here's the irony. The Church thundered against grave robbers, but also quietly benefited from them. Pilgrimage was big business. The bones of saints were priceless, but there weren't enough to go around. And so many holy relics shown to pilgrims were fakes. Some were dog bones. Others were stolen from ordinary graves and passed off as holy remains. One monk in the 12th century admitted in his writings that he had seen monks redress bones from local cemeteries as relics of martyrs. Imagine a peasant robbed of their grandmother's remains, only to see her bones displayed as Saint Somebody in a gilded reliquary. Punishment and folklore. Caught grave robbers faced brutal punishments. In many towns they were executed, their bodies hung near the graveyards as warnings. Yet fear didn't stop the trade. Folklore grew around it. People whispered of robbers cursed by the dead. Tales spread of grave thieves struck down by mysterious illnesses, haunted by restless spirits, or found dead with soil in their mouths, as if the earth itself punished them. One chilling English ballad tells of a thief who dug up a grave for a gold ring, only for the corpse's hand to grip him tight and never let go until morning, when villagers found him screaming, still stuck to the body. The Black Death and mass graves. Then came the Black Death in the 14th century. Suddenly, there were too many bodies to bury. Mass graves overflowed. For robbers, this was opportunity. Rings, amulets, and coins were buried in haste. But here's the horror. Many robbers caught the plague themselves, digging up infected corpses. Chronicles describe men who went into the earth greedy for treasure and came out coughing, dead within days. The plague was the ultimate curse on the grave robbers. A true case, the Lincoln Cathedral robbery. One of the most detailed cases comes from Lincoln, England, in 1420. A group of men tunneled into the cathedral's treasury, which also served as a crypt. They smashed coffins, pried gold from corpses of bishops, and made off with chalices and jeweled crosses buried with them. When caught, their trial records describe the scene vividly: broken coffins, desecrated corpses, even bones thrown into the mud. The men confessed not only to stealing treasures, but to cutting pieces of shrouds to sell as holy relics. They were hanged, ironically buried in unmarked graves themselves, forever at risk of being dug up by others. If you enjoyed this deep dive into ancient scandal, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another story from the strange and shocking side of history.